after to making her unexpected entrance. The sound of snoring was the first thing heard by Lottie the next morning, which was always but a pleasant noise to be woken up to, she'd think sarcastically. Rubbing her eyes and equipping her glasses, she noticed that snoring wasn't the only thing to be heard. Faint jingling noises could be heard every few seconds too, which seemed to be coming from below her bed. Lottie turned to find Susie already up and dressed and was looking towards her. "I think I've found the solution to why Akko must have passed out on the street yesterday," she said with the usual half-open-eyed look on her face. "You have? Then that noise must be coming from." She had to be a sleepwalker. Wondering what she meant, Lottie looked down at Akko's bed to find her still fast asleep. But that wasn't what made her stop and question what she was looking at. Akko wasn't in her pajamas, as she normally would be. Instead, she appeared to be wearing what seemed to be a jester's motley. A hat with a white zigzag pattern for the bottom with red and yellow colors for the dangling sleeves sat on her head perfectly. Below a white zigzag-shaped neckpiece was a dress with red and yellow colors which had splits near the lower half in white showing at the bottom of it, and puffy sleeves with one red and the other yellow, followed by white zigzag flaps below them. On her arms were elbow-length arm gloves, both the same red and yellow color scheme as the rest of the outfit, followed up by knee-length boots that curled at the tips. One boot red and the other yellow with white zigzag-shaped flaps at the top. Many jingling bells were all around the outfit, from the dangling sleeves of the hat, the tips of the zigzag-shaped neckpiece, sleeves and boots, the splits of her dress and lately the tips of her boots. Lottie was a little lost for words and raised an eyebrow. She put on her glasses, climbed down from her bed and stood up staring down at Akko still in total confusion. Where did this come from? Did she use the clothes transformation spell on herself somehow? Doubtful. She's never tried that one yet, Susie followed. Unless she brought something from the costume shop yesterday, but she had nothing on her when I found her. Unless she used an object transformation spell to shrink the outfit into her pocket or something. But she's nowhere close to nailing that spell. "Well, I'm stumped," Susie said, as she turned around. "I'm heading off to the cafeteria. Breakfast is calling. Don't you want to wait for us first?" Akko could wake up at any moment with snoring like that. "She'll be a while." "You may as well come along. You go on ahead," Lottie said, turning her eye contact towards Susie. "I'm gonna stay and keep a check on Akko. I'm a little bit concerned about this." "Sure. Feel free to fill me in if you find out anything." "Got it," Lottie nodded, as Susie left the room. Turning back to look at Akko, she sat down at her desk and waited. It took some time for Akko to finally awaken, much to the mercy of Lottie's ears from having to hear her snoring. Breakfast had already passed and her stomach was growling, but she'd said to herself that Akko was more important than that. Akko stretched her arms and legs, causing the bells on her outfit to jingle, something she wasn't aware of just yet. "Good morning, world," she said in a woozy voice, as she turned to notice Lottie watching her. "Oh, morning, Lottie," she smiled, rubbing her right hand against her face. "Did you sleep this time?" She noticed the jingling as well as the yellow arm glove. "What's this?" "That's the question I want to know," Lottie said, as Akko examined her clothing fully, with an appropriate jump of shock, as she banged her bed on Lottie's bed from above. "Careful!" Lottie cried. "Are you okay?" "What is going on here?" she cried, rubbing her head after the impact. "Whose idea was it to pull this prank during the night?" Well, it wasn't Susie or me. I'd never pull this kind of prank on you, and I doubt she would either. The nerve of whoever's behind this, Akko said. Rather angry and getting out her wand. I'm not the fool of the school. She aimed her wand upwards, ready to perform a spell, only to stay in that pose and not budge. It took 5 seconds of motionless silence for Lottie to speak. I don't think you know any clothes transformation spells. If I know what you're trying to do yet, Akko admitted, finally moving again. I can do it for you, she offered, as she got her wand out. Thanks, Lottie. Akko sighed with relief. I don't know what I'd do without you. No problem. She pointed her wand towards Akko and chanted the words Metamorphosis, the spell that could transform the user or another's clothes into anything of their desire. In the puff of smoke, Lottie waited to see if the spell did its job, but to her surprise, when the smoke cleared, Akko's jester attire still remained. What the hell? Are you messing with me? Akko asked in confused annoyance. No, not at all. I don't understand why nothing happened. Lottie panicked nervously. Maybe I didn't perform it correctly. Let me try again. She did so with the panic of Akko's reaction in her mind almost breaking her concentration. The results were the same. Nothing had happened, which now caused Akko to panic a little. How about I try a spell on myself? She shivered as she tried to focus on something, raising her wand, once an idea came to her. Metamorphosis, yes, she called out, which was the transformation spell Akko had been practicing with Professor Ursula. This time, though, was worse, as not even any magic was being produced from the wand. As Akko began to panic further, she tried other spells on herself, which all still did nothing. This can't be, she said, feeling defeated. What am I doing wrong? Worried for her friend, Lottie tried more spells as well, all with the same results. It's like you've become magic-proof, Lottie said, feeling at a standstill. Now I'm starting to think something really did happen to you out yesterday. But what? What would cause such a thing? Akko asked angrily, as she attempted to remove the jester outfit by pulling at her arm gloves. Things only got worse from there, as it seemed that now she couldn't take it off. She pulled with all her might, as Lottie watched in surprise. Come on, Akko strained to the point of biting the top of the right glove with her teeth, only resulting in them digging into her skin and causing pain. This is getting really weird, Lottie said, almost thunderstruck. Try taking off the hat. Following her suggestion, Akko grabbed at the sleeves and pulled upwards to attempt removing it, resulting in the same outcome. The entire outfit couldn't be removed and seemed indestructible from how much Akko tried to tear the thing off. She collapsed to the floor with a loud jingle of her bells from pulling the hat sleeves from behind her head. She was lying down for several seconds, all out of options on what to do. I can't do it, Akko said with a face of defeat. Now what am I gonna do? Relax, Akko, Lottie responded, trying to stay calm for her sake. I'm sure we can figure this out. How though? None of our magic works on me, and this ridiculous costume isn't coming off. How am I supposed to go to classes looking like, oh no, she cried out loud, looking at the clock. Classes in 5 minutes. Oh no, you're right, Lottie followed, realizing she hadn't changed out of her pajamas yet. We have to hurry and get going. I can't go to class looking like this, Akko panicked. Everyone's gonna laugh at me more than they already do, and I don't need to give them a bigger reason to do so. Not if we explain to the teachers what's going on. I'm sure they'll understand. when they see for themselves, but the first lesson is with Professor Finnelan. Akko panicked, referring to the magic linguistics teacher whose other role was the faculty member in charge of student guidance. I don't want to get in detention for the umpteenth time. This time it's not my fault, as I said. If we explain what's happening, then she'll understand, Lottie told her, even though she too felt that Professor Finnelan would just see this as Akko not respecting school dress code. Besides, she thinks I have no value as a witch, and Finnelan was a serious woman who demanded respect and discipline from the students and favored skilled ones like Diana, which only made things harder for Akko, as Diana would tend to get under her skin for being treated as a joke to the school. Now that feeling would only be worse due to being trapped in this outfit. I'll be right with you, Lottie promised, placing her hand on Akko's shoulder. If she doesn't believe you, then I'll step in once again. Akko felt incredibly lucky to have Lottie as a friend. She sighed once more and gave a faint smile. Thank you, she said, keeping the response short and sweet, knowing that Lottie had to get dressed quickly. She turned to let Lottie dress whilst looking at her poster of Shiny Chariot, wondering what she would do if in a similar situation. Akko checked outside the bedroom door to see if any students were passing by heading to class, to which there were, as she hid away from their sight in case they were to take a look. Several of them thought they heard some jingling noises close by, but didn't give it much thought as they carried on. Lottie knew what Akko was trying to do, so she got in front of her and left the room, turning her head back to face Akko. I don't see anyone left, she whispered. If you want, then you can come on out. Maybe it's too early to do so. Akko smiled nervously with her eyes closed. You go on ahead and I'll catch up. We can't be late, Akko. I promise I'll be right with you, but then everyone will keep staring. Look at me, I'm dressed to be someone who is supposed to be laughed at. I get enough of that for just being myself, and not in a positive way. Then we'll both explain what's going on, if anyone asks. Come on, let's go. Once confident enough, Akko followed behind Lottie at a somewhat slow pace due to the bells on her outfit constantly jingling. With no way to remove them, her presence was bound to be heard by someone, which had her on edge as she walked down the hallway. Akko suddenly felt itchy on her back and groaned as she stopped in her tracks. Why now, she said, as she carefully moved her right arm to reach for the itchy area. I wanna scratch it so bad. Shall I do it for you? Lottie asked, who had noticed. Whoever does it, these bells will go off, she replied, scratching her gloved fingers across her back as carefully as possible, making the bells jingle louder. Just thinking of the very word, itch, caused more areas of her body to need scratching, being her arms and legs. She clenched her teeth in frustration as the itching continued and the stress of the bells giving her away. Try and stay calm, Akko, Lottie said quietly. You're probably not as itchy as you may think. Don't say that word, Akko responded back in a panic, as she felt worse. She began to feel flustered as she scratched faster and faster. Her eyes were closed tight and she was straining the further she scratched, not noticing that her left leg somehow stepped on the curl tip of her right yellow-colored boot. Moving forward at the same time, she lost balance and collapsed onto the floor, causing the bells to jingle loudly all at once from the fall. Lottie gasped and reached her hand out towards Akko for her to pick her back up with. The frustrated girl got back up on her feet and realized the noise she had made, stuck in a pause of not knowing what to do now. Stupid boots, Akko cried out crossly, stomping her left foot down in repetition. Stupid bells, What's with the jet? Laughed someone from behind her, which froze Akko in a fright. She quickly turned around to notice Barbara Parker, who was with Hannah England, two students who were loyal friends and assistants of Diana. The two of them had similar mocking behaviors towards Akko and her friends, especially Akko due to her incompetence in magic and her academic level in the school. Being brought down by them weekly was something Akko couldn't stand, and being in her current situation was only going to feed them with opportunities to make her feel worse. So you finally accepted that you're nothing but a joke to Luna Nova, Hannah commented on her attire. What took you so long? Akko replied back angrily, I didn't want to be in this situation. Made a bet with someone and lost it? Barbara asked with a sly, bullish smile. Of course you'd lose it. I'd say this actually suits you well. Hannah chuckled in an antagonizing manner. It really does scream you. Knock it off, Lottie said, getting in front of Akko. Something's happened to her and there seems to be no way of finding out what it is yet. I can answer it for you, Barbara said. Akko is nothing more but this school's clown and she secretly has accepted it. No, I haven't. Shut up, Akko cried angrily. It was enough to be in this silly outfit, but being called the school's clown had insulted her greatly. You try being stuck in this and see how I feel. No thanks. We prefer a dress code that shows we take things seriously, Hannah replied in a mocking tone. We'll be on our way now. I'm sure you'll need time to come up with some jokes, if you're even capable of making any good ones. Barbara chuckled alongside Hannah, as they set off past Akko and Lottie to head for class. The frustrated Akko suddenly realized that them going on ahead could mean them telling Professor Finnelan, which caused her to panic. Hold up, she cried, running on ahead, only to then step on the same curved boot tip again and fall. The sound of Hannah and Barbara laughing getting fainter only frustrated Akko more, as she got herself back up and attempted to chase after them again. More students were beginning to appear from far behind her, all noticing Akko's jet and questioning to themselves what was going on. Lottie looked back quickly, sighed, then turned to catch up with Akko in the hopes of getting her to calm down. Don't let them get under your skin, she said, placing her hand on Akko's shoulder, which caused her to stop. You're only going to make things worse for yourself and let them go on ahead to tell the teacher. No way, she said somewhat anxiously. I'm not the school's clown. That comment's really hurt you, hasn't it? Kindra. Akko didn't want to fully admit it, but her silence was all the evidence Lottie needed to get the truth. We're almost at class now, so let's just carry on and explain what's happened. No need, Akko sighed. No doubt those guys would have told Professor Finnelan by now. Akko walked on forward, her head looking at the ground and arms dangling down with a look of defeat, as she approached the door. Other students from behind Lottie kept staring towards Akko and wondered what was going on. The second Akko walked into magic linguistics class, she noticed Susie was already at her desk, as well as Hannah and Barbara, others who both looked down at Akko for a brief second before she noticed. They eagerly awaited how the teacher would react to Akko's attire with smiles on their faces. Professor Finnelan was at her desk watching everybody walk in and greeting them, and as to be expected, she took a look at Akko, still looking down at the ground, feeling completely embarrassed, and immediately a reaction came out. Miss Kaguri, she said in confusion, standing up from her seat. Just what on earth are you wearing? Wait, did Hannah and Barbara not tell her? Akko wondered, as she raised her head up slightly. Miss Kaguri, Finnelan asked again, raising her voice a little up. Answer me, young lady. Why aren't you in the proper dress code? I can explain, go on then. You see, Akko paused, as she caught from the corner of her eye that everyone currently in the class continued to stare, including Diana, giving her that familiar look of disgust that she was more than used to. Lottie decided to step in, as she watched Akko struggle to break through her nerves. She woke up in this, "Professor," she said. "She can't get it off no matter how hard we try." "That's right," Akko followed now with more confidence in her voice. "It's stuck on tight." She pulled the sleeves on her hat hard to show she wasn't messing about, resulting in her falling over on her back, causing some of the other students to giggle, including Hannah and Barbara. "I don't have time to deal with your foolish antics," said with her arms crossed, not looking convinced at all. "But I'm not fooling around, I swear," says the fool, called Hannah from her desk, resulting in her and Barbara chuckling more. Akko, already tired of them mocking her again, looked directly at them angrily. "Back off," she called to them. "Fools are supposed to make us laugh, not threaten their audience." Barbara responded slyly, "Shut up, we will. We're just waiting for a joke to come out of your mouth." "Okay, that's it." Akko stomped up towards their desk with rage, as Lottie attempted to follow her in a panic. As Akko approached the girls, Hannah stuck her foot out to trip Akko over on the floor, something she had experienced from them in the past, as they laughed away. "Well, you got the physical comedy down." Barbara laughed. "But you couldn't have done that on your own." Akko got up and yelled out, as she grabbed Hannah and Barbara and pinned them down to the floor, resulting in all three of the girls fighting. "Enough," called out Professor Finnelan angrily, but her words didn't reach them as the fighting continued. Already growing tired of watching it, Diana stood up and got out her wand to perform a spell to stop the fighting. With a wave of it, she cast out a magical barrier spell around the three girls to protect them from more physical contact. That was except for Akko, as the spell didn't work on her. Hannah and Barbara looked up at Diana with much relief. "Thanks, Diana," Hannah said with a relieved smile. "Akko has no control over her temper. What would this school do without you?" Barbara followed, but Diana gave them a look of disappointment. Akko was her main focus, as she continued to ponder why her spell didn't work on her. "All three of you to the headmistress' office now," Professor Finnelan said angrily, as she pointed her finger towards the door. This instant Hannah and Barbara weren't so happy now, as they looked at Akko annoyingly before heading down the stairs, with Akko, feeling defeated, walking close behind them. Lottie watched with worry, as her friend left the room, whilst Susie, who also watched, was wondering just what was going on with her fellow roommate. With the girls out of the room, the rest of the students sat at their desks except for Diana, as they conversed about what happened, mostly feeling that this was nothing new, as Akko's antics did make the most noise. "Everyone please be silent," Finnelan instructed. "The lesson is about to commence. What happened has happened, so let's focus." "Actually, Professor," Diana said, standing up from her desk, "I hate to ask, but may I be excused for a moment?" "For what reason?" "Forgive me, but I seem to have forgotten the appropriate books for the class. May I quickly go back to my dorm room and collect them?" "That's rather unlike you to be unprepared," Finnelan responded surprisingly. "I would usually expect you to be on the mark, but I suppose one can always make mistakes. I'll let you do so, but I do not expect this to happen again." "It won't." "Thank you and apologies," she said before leaving the room. With Finnelan believing her bluff, Diana took off in the opposite direction to head towards Miranda Holbrook's office, Luna Nova's 44th headmistress. Her spell not working on Akko had been bothering her since she stopped the fight, and she simply had to find out any traces of information no matter how small. I am rather disappointed in you all, Holbrook said, having been told the whole situation. I do not expect fighting to be going on in class from any of you. She started it, though, Hannah said, putting on a distressed voice which instantly triggered Akko again. She and Barbara insulted me over and over again, Akko argued, pointing toward them, none of which should have happened at all. Holbrook said in her calm tone, I hope you realize this will mean detention for all three of you, but that's not fair, Barbara cried out in annoyance. Akko causes more trouble than anyone else here. That dumb outfit of hers couldn't be more befitting of such a disgrace. Do you want your detention to be extended? Holbrook asked, which stopped Barbara immediately. No, she sighed, then do not throw any more insults, thank you. You are to return to your class and come back here for your detention afterwards. Failure to show up on time will result in it being extended. Yes, Mrs. Holbrook replied disappointingly. As for you, Miss Caggery, she said, as Hannah and Barbara took their leave. Stay here with me for a moment. Why? She asked nervously. Hannah and Barbara closed the door behind them, smiling as soon as they couldn't be seen. Maybe Akko's gonna get in bigger trouble. Hannah smiled. Attacking students will no doubt be a bigger price to pay. Barbara chuckled as they walked away, quickly followed up by anger. She still got us in detention, though unbeknownst to them, as they left, was a tiny creature keeping itself hidden from them and everyone else, as it snuck through the open door of the office. A small chameleon with a face looking somewhat similar to Diana's was sticking to the wall, blending its colors with the surrounding environment and keeping out of sight. It kept its visual focus on Akko and the headmistress, wanting to learn more of what was being said. You mentioned something about this outfit of yours being stuck on you, Holbrook said. Show me an example, if you could, please. Oh yeah, Akko replied with a small glimpse of hope. If the headmistress could see the truth, the word may spread to others who didn't believe her, she hoped. She pulled against her hat sleeves as tight as she could, followed by trying to remove the gloves and boots, to no success. My magic doesn't work either, Mrs. Holbrook, she followed up by trying the transformation spell she'd been working on with Professor Ursula. She knew, though, it would be hard to convince the headmistress with it. However, she hadn't fully perfected it at this point. Well, I say, Holbrook said in surprise. I don't think I've seen something like this before. Lottie tried her magic on me too, and that didn't work either. Please, could you try one on me to help prove my point? Holbrook nodded immediately, as she stood up and performed the clothes transformation spell on her. She was shocked to discover that Akko was right. Nothing had happened. She tried other spells too, which lead to the same results. See? Akko said with a sad sigh. I'm stuck like this. I suppose this calls for some investigation, Holbrook said, sitting back at her desk. I'll inform Professor Ursula after first classes are finished and the rest of the staff. Thank you, Akko smiled with relief. This has been bothering me all morning. Everyone besides Lottie thought I've been messing around this whole time. I don't want this. At least now I can see why you're so frustrated. However, this doesn't mean you should have attacked Hannah and Barbara earlier. The best thing to do would have been to ignore them or report to the teacher that they were bullying you. I expect better from you, Akko. I know, she sighed. I'll try and make sure to not let it happen again. I should hope so. I'll return to class with you and explain the situation to Professor Finnelan. You will still be required to return for detention afterwards, "Though thank you so much," Akko said with a relieved smile, "and I'll accept my punishment." As Akko and Hollow left the office, Diana, still in her chameleon transformation, followed closely behind them back to class. Never before had she snuck out of class like this, and deep down knew that it was possible for her to be sent to detention for taking so long to get her books, but for a situation such as this, she couldn't ignore it. Diana eventually diverted from them to find a place to hide and transform back to her normal self. Waiting for the headmistress to explain everything to Finland and leave, she returned back to class and explained she had them all along, resulting in avoiding any detention due to Finland's opinion of her as an inspiration to Luna Nova. As the class continued, though, she found it hard to focus, as not getting any answers to Akko's situation yet was constantly on her mind.